Right. I don't need this today. I can use this one today.
Okay.
Right. No guests.
Four.
There goes the
3, 2.
That's too early, ain't it?
Nope. Hold on 2 seconds.
Hey everyone, it is Wednesday. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key and we are selling Sacramento. If you didn't know, April is Fair Housing Month. Yes, the month of April has been set aside nationwide as Fair Housing Month. And during Fair Housing Month, we are commemorating the Fair Housing Act. So on this show today, what I want to talk to you about are ways that you too can help commemorate this month. In particular, ways that you can help build thriving and inclusive communities. So I'm going to start the show off with information that will be helpful to landlords because I know a large portion of our listening audience is, how should I say? I was going to say African American, but it really doesn't matter. Race in this particular subject matter is not necessarily the issue because discrimination happens in all different types of forms. So what I want to emphasize, I want to emphasize assistance to landlords to help you understand how not to discriminate, to help you in the process when people are renting, because a large variety of our listeners are renters. How about that? That's what I want to say. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about the nationwide aspect of it. Want to talk about HUD's perspective of them kicking off Fair Housing Month. So this year's Fair Housing Month theme for HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, their theme, fair housing, more than just words. So this is our government's perspective on fair housing. I want you to hear this for a reason. The main reason is election season is coming up. We've elected some individuals over the past couple of decades with the hopes that they're going to help change our current personal situations. So I want us to just take a brief moment and think on the last time you voted, the last 2-3 times you voted, who you voted for, what office you voted that person into, and how are they doing? Are they living up to the reason that you cast your vote for them? I say that also because as it pertains to housing, you all know that minorities, Blacks and Hispanics, are at the bottom of homeownership data when it comes to numbers of homeownership. And we are on a sliding scale headed to slide off in the next 20 to 30 years if something isn't done about it. As we look at the past several decades, those housing numbers haven't changed much. They aren't improving. So think about this as election season comes up. Some of you are Democrats because your mama was a Democrat, your grandmama was a Democrat, so on and so forth. Some of you are Democrats because you've been conditioned to be Democrats. Some of you are Republicans because you've been conditioned to be Republicans. But if you really think about what those parties stand for, and then hone in on the individuals that are running for office, and you start looking at these elected officials, not from a platform perspective, not from a Democrat, Republican, because there are some things Democrats do that abhor me, disgust me. There are some things Democrats do that I praise them for. There are some things Republicans do that disgust me, and there are some things Republicans do that I praise them for, because I'm looking at them through my lens of my life and how they are impacting me financially, economically, mentally, socially. Can I move around with the choices that they make in the Senate, in the House, on the city council? Can I achieve the goals that I need to achieve for me and my community? So let me go back now to HUD's commemoration of National Fair Housing. Their theme, again, is fair housing, more than just words. And that is the Biden-Harris administration's commitment, they say commitment, and progress towards advancing equity in housing and securing equal access to housing opportunities for all. The Fair Housing Act recognized what generations have known, that where we live impacts nearly every part of our lives. That's a statement from Secretary Marcia L. Fudge. She continues by saying, Fair Housing Month is a time to recommit to our mission to promote fairness, inclusion, and justice in housing. And she says, although the Fair Housing Act was passed 54 years ago, we are still fighting against discrimination in housing today. Actually, that comment was made by Demetria L. McCain. She's the principal deputy secretary for Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity. She says, this April, HUD is renewing its commitment to end housing discrimination and to ensure every person has equal access to safe, affordable housing. So I want to tell you what it is that they're saying they're doing. So they go on to say each April, HUD and local communities, they're talking about fair housing now. I'm reading their press release, y'all. Each April, HUD, local communities, fair housing advocates, and fair housing organizations across the country celebrate Fair Housing Month by hosting an array of fair housing activities that highlight fair housing enforcement efforts, enhance public awareness of fair housing rights, and emphasize the importance of creating diverse and inclusive communities. So they kicked off Fair Housing Month with a virtual celebration on April 5th that featured a slew of individuals, U.S. Department of Justice Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Kristen Clark. I'm not going to read the names because they're not significant. We care about the changes they actually make. So I'm not impressed by titles and people. I'm impressed by people with titles who move the needle. So I'm not even going to give them the benefit of listing those names in this moment. But I will tell you that they have launched what they are calling the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity Twitter and Facebook page. So if you search for that on Twitter and Facebook, that is there. The other piece of significant information that I want to share with you all is that they said in 2021, HUD and its Fair Housing Assistance Program partner agencies received more than 8,500 complaints alleging discrimination based on one or more of the Fair Housing Act's 7 protected classes, which are race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity, family status, and disability. Last year, the categories with the highest number of complaints were disability and race, respectively. HUD also received complaints alleging lending discrimination and numerous complaints from women who faced sexual harassment. If you believe that you've experienced discrimination, you may file a complaint by contacting HUD's Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity at 800-669-9777. That number again is 800-669-9777, or relay 800-877-8339. Housing discrimination complaints may also be filed by going to hud.gov/fair housing. Again, that website again is hud.gov/fair housing. it's important to acknowledge Fair Housing Month, to commemorate the Fair Housing Act, to give us a reminder to assess what are our elected officials doing about it. We're done with the pomp and circumstance, right? It's time for us to start seeing some results by these people that we're putting in office. It is your responsibility when you go out to vote that you are voting for individuals who are going to make the changes that we need to have made to improve fair housing for all. And it's also important to vote out those individuals who aren't doing the work, not just because a group put somebody on the ballot because they've got millions of dollars to get them out of office. We really need to be very black and white about a lot of things when it comes to what's right and what's wrong, and pull ourselves out of the conditioning that's causing us to go down this rabbit hole that we feel like we can't get out of. So for landlords, if you are a landlord, I'm going to give you 4 ways to avoid housing discrimination. This is really important because as I manage property, as I see my clients and other individuals contact me about things that their landlords are doing, it's occurring to me that many landlords just don't know that they are doing something wrong. They don't know that they're breaking the law when they impose certain things on tenants when it comes to them applying for property, applying for rentals, things of that nature, having them in the property. So here we go. Number 1, avoid discrimination in rental ads. If you are a landlord and you're listening, you want to get a pen and paper and write this down, because this may help you. You can avoid a lawsuit. You can avoid infractions if you abide by these guidelines. So the rental ad might contain discriminatory language. An advertisement cannot suggest that certain tenants won't be accepted because they fall into one of the classes above. And what are those classes again? Color, ancestry, place of origin, ethnic origin, citizenship, gender, pregnancy, sexual orientation, children. So family status means children, number of children. I actually had a client contact me. I helped them sell their home. They applied for a rental. The real estate agent representing the property owner as their property manager sent her in a text that, yes, we originally were going to accept your application. However, my client wants to put a larger family in this home. Your family size is too small. So guess what that was? That was a violation of the Fair Housing Act. And I said, oh my goodness, I cannot believe she put that in a text. So within 24 hours, we were in touch with a fair housing attorney who said, how you want to do this? Because you can pretty much sue them. And my client said, I just want our deposit back. I said, send her an email, put her broker's email in it, quote the section of the Fair Housing Act that says that's a violation, and tell them you want your full deposit back ASAP. And less than an hour later, she sent me a screenshot of a Cash App of the agent sending her her money back. That is how huge you violating the Fair Housing Rights Act can just fall on you instantaneously. You can end up in a world of trouble, landlords. So avoid discrimination in your rental ads. You cannot manipulate or decide who you want to have rent that property. So here's a good rule to follow. Use the ad to describe the property and not the tenant who you believe would be a good fit. Just describe the property. That way you'll avoid controversial words like single, married, mature, children, male, female, church, assistants, and so on. Just describe the property. And number 2, be fair when screening tenants. To avoid discrimination in the tenant screening process, be sure to develop a standard and apply that standard to your tenant screening policies. Develop one standard that you apply to everyone. If you stray off that standard and you go a different route for another applicant than you did the rest, you are setting yourself up for a fair housing lawsuit. Uniformity is crucial. Your policies from the initial intake of the phone call through signing the lease should solicit only the information necessary to determine qualifications. So you want to tailor your rental application so that the same questions can be asked of every applicant. Eliminate questions that don't go to the heart of the individual's qualifications. Number 3, continue to act like a pro. Discrimination doesn't only occur in the screening process. It often stems from the day-to-day management of existing tenants. So to avoid claims, continue to actively manage the rental property, including tending to repairs and maintenance. Apply leasing policies like routine property inspections uniformly to all maintenance. You can't cater to one tenant because they're nicer to you, and that other tenant who's always cussing and fussing and making it hard and late paying their rent. You can't treat anyone differently because they treat you differently. Keep your emotions out of it. Keep your emotions out of it. If you deviate from your policies, that could be an open door to setting you up for a fair housing lawsuit. And you are responsible as the landlord to shield your tenants from discrimination and harassment from other tenants. So when they complain to you about another tenant, you need to take them seriously. I have a tenant right now who informed me that the neighbors have formed a coalition against another neighbor who has been verbally abusive to all of them. She said, I want to let you know what's about to go down. I said, ooh, child. Okay. So now it's my responsibility to see what the upper level actions are that we should take to protect the tenants. So we're now reaching out to the owner of that property and letting them know that that tenant is causing a disturbance, and we are going to ask them to do something about it immediately, or else we will have to take other measures. That was the immediate thought you always want to protect as a landlord. Number 4, be careful what you say. Be careful what you say. It's impossible to tell whether you are speaking with a rental applicant or with a housing advocate who's testing your leasing practices. Did you ever think about that as a landlord? Someone could be calling you just to see how you're conducting your business. Be honest. Don't tell an applicant that the vacancy is filled when it's not. Don't volunteer your social views to strangers or attempt to garner support for a discriminatory viewpoint from another tenant or a rental applicant. Those words can be grounds for a discrimination claim, even where you have rented to the protected tenant. So those are 4 ways that landlords can avoid housing discrimination. Those are just basics. Those are basics. I highly recommend that you join an organization like if you're in the state of California, there's the California Apartment Association. And don't be swayed by the name apartment. There are landowners, there are homeowners, there are corporations that all belong to this organization, the California Apartment Association. I think it's caanet.org. if you become a member there, they have a ton of resources and information for you to help protect you. If you become a member, your membership fees help pay for lobbyists who help promote issues that cover and protect landlord rights. Get under the umbrella of organizations that will help keep you legit and out of trouble. We're going to take a break, but when I come back, we will have some more information on things that you can do during this Fair Housing Month of April. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Oops. Oh my gosh. Somebody is watching the show that's posting some very crude comments. I think I just blocked them. Hey, if you guys are watching, if you saw that comment, let me know if they were deleted, because I think I deleted all the comments. I didn't know that person had posted that. Hey, if y'all are out there watching, let me know. Say something in the comments. I see that there are folks watching. I just don't see any comments except for that one. And I want to make sure that people are able to comment. It says that I've blocked that person. Yeah. I've never been spammed like that before during a show.
Yeah, eventually gets everybody,
I guess so. Let me go in here and see. Okay, I don't see it on this end. Let's see if it's in this one. Okay, I must have successfully deleted them because I don't see any of those comments. Okay.
She said, Toasty, congratulations. I said, for what? He said, you finally got a negative comment. Yeah, we were taught of your clean record.
Oh, a clean record.
So you finally got a negative comment.
Miss Stacy Lynn, hello, ma'am. Happy Wednesday. How are you? I actually had tacos for
breakfast,
brunch, yes. So I was thinking it is Wednesday, and I had tacos today, Taco Tuesday. I missed them yesterday and had them today.
I always say breakfast, not always for breakfast.
Right?
I just eat, man. I'm a pig, so I just eat. I don't care.
I just got to make sure that I eat, right? Because I did I tell you I was doing the what is that called? The fast? Not necessarily. It's the fasting. Gosh, what is it called? When you fast during a certain time to.
When you're praying for something?
No. Not a spiritual fast.
It's a diet thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been out of the game a long time, so I don't really remember.
Yeah,
so
I can't eat after 6. And I can only eat between 10 and 6. And so if I'm busy working, sometimes I forget to eat. So I eat a lot, but all my food is meal prep. So I'm trying to eat all this food before 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I never could stick to that.
Hey, everyone. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. This is Agent Kia. We're back. April is Fair Housing Month. During Fair Housing Month in April, the Sacramento Self-Help Housing has launched educational efforts, and they are raising awareness for its free renters helpline. So some good news you can use. In recognition of National Fair Housing Month in April, Sacramento Self-Help Housing is launching a Know Your Fair Housing Rights educational effort, and they are raising awareness about the free renters helpline to vulnerable renters in the Sacramento area. So according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, an estimated 3.7 million Americans report a form of housing insecurity. Wow. Additionally, about 7.7 million adults are behind on rent payments, and historical data points to low income and vulnerable renters being disproportionately at risk of eviction and falling into homelessness. This would explain the large increase in homelessness over the past few years. The Free Renters Helpline, well, I shouldn't say it would explain, it's part of the reason. The Free Renters Helpline is a valuable resource for tenants as it offers an education in tenant landlord issues and dispute resolution services. So if you're listening and you're a renter here in the Sacramento area, the Renters Helpline has received nearly 1,500 calls in 2022 so far from households in need of resources and guidance. The Free Renters Helpline is staffed with experts available to help with potential renter discrimination, tenant landlord disputes, education on new laws about rent increase and just cause evictions, and temporary moratoriums due to COVID-19. Currently, the most frequent questions to the helpline are focused on the following topics: discrimination based on race and color, discrimination based on religion, discrimination based on disability, rent increases, termination of tenancy, or evictions. It was originally launched in 2016, and the helpline is made possible through a collaboration with Project Sentinel and Legal Services of Northern California. The free service is available for residents in unincorporated Sacramento County and the cities of Sacramento, Rancho Cordova, Elk Grove, Citrus Heights, and Folsom. Experienced tenant advisors deal directly with concerns regarding landlord-tenant disputes and help to refer fair housing issues to the appropriate agency. The Renters Helpline is one of a variety of programs offered by Sacramento Self-Help Housing, which is a nonprofit 501c3. They are celebrating 20 years of service dedicated to assisting those who are unhoused or at risk of becoming so to find and retain stable and affordable housing. All fundraising efforts support Sacramento Self-Help Housing and its efforts to identify positive solutions and workable alternatives for local community members dealing with homelessness or trying to break free from a cycle of unstable living situations. Sacramento Self-Help Housing is a leader in the Housing First model of homelessness response by providing shared housing and other supportive services. And here is how you contact them. The Renters Helpline is available at 916 389 7877. 916 389 7877. And that's Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Or for more information about the Renters Helpline, visit them online at rentershelpline.org. www.renters with an S helpline helpline.org. And for more general information about the organization, you can call them at 916-341-0593 or visit them at sacselfhelp.org. sacselfhelp.org. So we appreciate Sacramento Self-Help Housing. If you didn't get that information and you would like to get that again, I'm hesitating to give the phone number because I don't want you to call while I'm on the air. Email me at agentkey007@gmail.com, agentkee007@gmail.com, and just ask for the Renters Helpline information. Continuing with Fair Housing Month information, we want to make sure that you can find out how you can help build thriving and inclusive communities. At the beginning of the show, first thing that I brought up was that we are in the season of voting. It's getting ready to happen. Make sure you're voting for individuals who are going to do the things that will help improve your life. Not based on what they say, but look at their past records. Before they get into these offices where you see their name on every commercial, they have a past, they have a history of work that they've done. Go and check them out. Are they grassroots people? Do they have experience in getting the work done that they say they're going to do for you? Do they have credibility? Do they have the experience in getting anything done? That is a good sign of, if they can get that done on a lower level, if you give them a higher position, they can probably get it done on a higher level, right? So don't vote just because it's popular for this particular person, or because your mama did or your dad did, or you've been conditioned to do it. If we really want to make change, one of the ways to make change is to start voting differently at the polls and get involved with the grassroots organizations who are looking for individuals to put in these offices. We don't have to wait until they get their names on the ballot. Get involved when these organizations are reaching out to you and they're trying to introduce you to these candidates. Get to know the candidates on a local level. Get to know the candidates when they come to your town. Take that type of control. Okay? So that's how we can make some big changes also at the ballot box. I want to talk about Habitat for Humanity's housing stance. Habitat for Humanity says that housing inequality is a primary culprit behind the large racial wealth gap between Black and white households in the U.S. Mobilizing public and political will to craft and implement remedies necessary for a more just future is critical to rectifying the years of unjust housing policies that continue to impact families today. Habitat's Cost of Home campaign provides a vehicle for advocating for anti-racist housing and land use policies at local, state, and federal levels. So I'm going to read next a list. It's a non-exhaustive list. I'm just going to touch on a few points of housing policy solutions that we can all help push forward to redress the nation's legacy of discrimination against people of color, and especially Black Americans, and to help our nation begin to heal. Number one, increase opportunities for Black homeownership. To start, we must set a goal of closing the Black homeownership gap within a generation. This can be achieved in several ways: by increasing access to down payment assistance, increasing access to affordable credit, investing in affordable home ownership, retargeting the mortgage interest deduction. Actually, those are the four under increasing opportunities for Black homeownership. And I want to go back to investing in affordable home ownership really quickly. They say even when down payment assistance is available, unaffordable home prices remain a major obstacle to home ownership. Expanding government grants that finance affordable home construction can help builders like Habitat create lasting, sustainable home ownership opportunities. We can all relate to that right now. The housing crisis is not just a Black American issue. The housing crisis is impacting everyone. Everyone within the sound of my voice is being impacted by the housing crisis. And again, your vote matters. Holding our elected officials accountable to these types of issues and making strong policies that impact housing is what's going to change this situation. So they say expanding government grants that finance affordable home construction. The red tape, the amount of fees and costs and expenses in California to build are insane. And within the past few years, Governor Gavin Newsom, love him or hate him, he's implemented and passed policies and laws that help loosen the stringent rules and some of the red tape that builders have to encounter in order to build in the state of California. I was just at a friend's yesterday who's having part of his home expanded. And I was there with a contractor and an architect, and we got to the point of fees. He's having a room expanded and a deck put out on the back. He's looking at $15,000 to $20,000 just in license fees, just downtown permit fees, not license fees, permit fees, just to start the project. Think $1,600 or $1,700 just to file the application. So if that's an expense of just one regular homeowner trying to expand his home, the cost for builders to build an entire home is what? On top of that, they're trying to make a profit. On top of that, they've got to pay for labor and materials. And if we talk about labor, now we're talking about skilled professionals, right? And if you're a skilled professional out there, you want to be paid as much as possible because it's so what? Expensive to live these days. The cost of living is so high. It's a domino effect. So these policies are not only impacting the builders, they're impacting the workers, they're impacting the consumer, they're impacting you and I. We fix this at the polls with those individuals we put into office, and we make them do the things that are going to bring these prices down. I've suggested on this show before as well. They're throwing millions and millions of dollars towards down payment assistance and closing cost assistance, which we absolutely need, but also incentivize the companies who are coming up with, who already have ergonomically the building materials that are going to be most cost effective, that are green, that are taking us into the next century. They are better building materials. They're going to help conserve energy. They're going to last longer. They're going to bring the cost of building down. Incentivize those types of companies to the point to where, and then incentivize developers and contractors who get with these companies, who build projects that are sustainable, that are net zero. They're producing energy rather than sucking it up. That sounds right. But so why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it nationwide? America said they didn't have any money for reparations years ago. Then COVID hit and billions of dollars showed up out of nowhere and they started paying people a free check. Why do we have to wait until things get so hard and start burning and homelessness is on the, why does it have to flow into your backyard before you're affected? Before you want to do something about it? As long as it's not impacting us, we don't care. That's usually how we roll. And we've got to just start being more empathetic about humanity as a whole. Just because I don't look like you or you don't look like me, you're not in my neighborhood, it doesn't mean that you don't hurt, you don't bleed. It doesn't mean that you're not going through something. When I pass you on the street, you could have just lost your husband, your wife, or your child. What is it going to kill me to just smile? We've got to learn how to be concerned about the other person that doesn't look like us, because eventually what affects them is going to affect me. Why wait? Because by the time it affects me, if it's been affecting them for 100 years and it starts affecting me, oh, honey, that means it's coming down hard, America. So here are some other housing policy solutions from Habitat for Humanity. Invest in distressed, racially segregated communities. Many formerly redlined and segregated neighborhoods continue to suffer from disinvestment and economic distress. Reinvestment and tax incentives targeting these communities would help spark recovery and opportunities. But these investments must be carefully designed to ensure they don't price out existing residents and businesses. And I want to add to that, they also need to be careful that reinvesting back into these communities actually makes them financially feasible, financially sound, financially self-sufficient. Don't just go in and redress something up and put some lipstick on it, but it's still a pig. Make sure you're looking at it from a holistic perspective and serving the needs of that particular community so that they can become self-sustaining, so that they can become self-sufficient, so that the children that live in the communities can see a hope and a future and don't have to look to something else as another way of surviving. You take out services, you take out access to medical care and parks and things of that nature. And what do you have left? That's where a lot of these communities are right now. They were put in situations where they didn't have services, don't even have trees. We've got to do the right thing. Number 3, stop perpetuating segregation. Segregation is the legacy of deliberate policy and zoning choices that led to the underinvestment and isolation of communities where Black households lived, and the creation of separate higher opportunity communities excluded people of color. Today's economically inclusionary zoning perpetuates this segregation. Governments at all levels are obligated to increase opportunities for Black households to live in neighborhoods with good schools and safe streets. And they can do this by reforming zoning to allow mixed income communities. By diversifying the types of homes allowed in the communities, localities can make them more racially and economically inclusive. Zoning modifications like lowering minimum and lot size requirements, permitting duplexes and triplexes, allowing apartments in more locations, and or minimizing discretionary review processes that help achieve this. In considering these reforms, again, it's important to be mindful of how zoning changes might inadvertently displace existing residents of color, and we need to prevent this from happening. Now, immediately when you start talking about allowing mixed use apartments, multifamily, certain people cringe and say, ooh, that's going to bring in an unsavory type of person in our neighborhoods. Woo. I challenge you to think beyond that. Developers, contractors, builders, when you're thinking of and reimagining these projects, reimagine our communities. I was on Jay King's show last week, and we talked about this. We've been talking about this quite a bit because we've got a project underway, and it's a reimagined master plan community that is going to provide a way for the individuals living in the community to be self-sustaining. It's possible. If you can think it, it can happen. With enough right people on board, the proper financing, the proper plan executed to serve not just one group of people, but a United States of America, fairly and equitably, it can work. What we have right now is not working because, quite honestly, if we are going to be honest about it, our system that we currently have for housing was not built on a fair and equitable foundation. Tell me this, any real estate agents listening, any builders or developers listening, anyone watching, listening right now, what happens when the foundation is bad and you build a home on a bad foundation? Can you just take it and fix the windows? Can you just repaint the house? Can you just readjust the floor? No, America. Our housing foundation is broken and it must be dismantled. And that's not a bad thing. When your arm is broken and you just let it set, you have to go back and break that thing again and set it right. Our housing foundation is broken, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got to quit putting lipstick on this pig and pretending that the foundation is right. HUD, if you're listening, city council members, if you're listening, mayor, actually, I think the mayor is listening. I think the governor is listening. They're taking active steps to do some things that a lot of people are getting very upset about. The rezoning. When our governor slapped that rezoning law down, a lot of people got upset for a lot of different reasons. And if you are looking only internally at yourself and your own best self-served interests, you would get upset. But if you look outside of yourself, if you look at how other people are suffering, if you put yourself in someone else's shoes, not only would you want to help them, but then you start to think even beyond that. Maybe you only believe that low-income people are Black because that's what your government has perpetuated all these years. Is it possible that Black people can be successful? Is it possible that low-income people can be successful? Is it possible that a homeless person can be made whole? Why don't we think forward into helping people get to the next step of self-sufficiency instead of just thinking one-dimensional, I don't want them in my neighborhood. Services, wraparound services are the next step, but it's not the only step. There's more. There's more. And I encourage you to stay tuned to this station because when you hear, we are planting seeds right now, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes you got to feed people with a teaspoon because if you try to give them the whole meal, y'all pass out. Mm-hmm. We don't want y'all passing out. We want you to stick and hang in there as we introduce this next phase to you. So stop perpetuating segregation, Habitat for Humanity says. And then they say invest in affordable rental housing. We all know how high rent costs are. It is officially more expensive to rent than it is to buy. And if you can successfully rent, chances are you could probably also qualify to buy. Because now a lot of property owners, landlords, property management companies are requesting that you have a certain credit score. They're requesting if you are putting down the first month, the last month, the deposit, that's your closing costs right there. If you're paying $2,500, $3,000, you multiply that 3 times, that's $9,000. That's probably more money than you would need if you are a first-time home buyer using a down payment assistance program to get into a home, ladies and gentlemen. So where are the homes? Why are the homes not available? Follow the money trail. You've got builders that have businesses and systems and processes set in place that make them money on a regular basis. They've got investors. They're not trying to rock the boat because it will mess up their gravy train. So that's when we have to go and do something new something radical to stop this bleeding. I was just informed I missed my second break. So we're not taking a second break during the show because I've only got 7 more minutes and then the show is over. Okay. So number 5, they say, minimize the damage of COVID-19 on Black households. A crucial immediate step for remedying racial housing disparities is preventing eviction and foreclosure during and after the pandemic. On average, Black renters and homeowners are at higher risk of losing their homes, having entered the health and economic crisis with less access to stable and affordable homes. Eviction and foreclosure moratoria, as well as forbearance options, are critical for stabilizing households during the pandemic. And just as critical is assistance to help families make up missed payments after those periods end. Foreclosure prevention assistance targeting low-income homeowners, emergency financial assistance for renters facing eviction, and extended repayment options for renters and homeowners alike are key to their and our recovery. So we've got to look out for both sides. We've got to look out for the renters and we've got to look out for the homeowners because it's the right thing to do. We can't be one-sided about this approach. There are people who are listening. You own several doors. And it isn't fair that someone can stay in your home and not pay when you have a bill due every month. The government's response should be to help you as well. The government's response should be to help the renter as well. This is where we don't mind our government stepping in. They're collecting our tax dollars. This is where our tax dollars should be going. It is pretty basic mathematics. We shouldn't get mad at one another and choose sides and say those daggum landlords and the landlords, they're renters, they're not giving us our rent. No. We all need to be looking at the government. How did we get into this situation? If we start looking at that and deciding on how we're going to help each other, you don't have to pick a side. You don't have to pick a side. You just got to do the right thing for everyone. The time for racial equity is long overdue. Habitat for Humanity said, join them in helping to ensure that all families have access to a stable, affordable place to call home. And you can read Habitat for Humanity's full racial disparity and housing policy paper for further history on discriminatory housing policy on their website. So go ahead and search Habitat for Humanity to get that additional information. Before we go, I want to give you a couple of events that are coming up. One of them I'm actually excited to be a part of. The National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Inc. of Sacramento chapter has a workshop for first-time home ownership. And they are calling it Workshop on First-Time Home Ownership, A Path to Hope. So you can join us for an exciting and informative session on creating your path to first-time home ownership. And they have a panel of esteemed experts that will share insights on inspiration, hope, and a path forward to home ownership, getting current with your finances, credit repair basics, lessons learned from the current market, creating an action plan, and resources that are available to you. And that event will take place virtually. Mark your calendar for May 14th from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., May 14th. There will be a panel discussion with audience Q&A, and I am proud to say that my partners will be on the panel with me, Jeff Sipes of Blue Water Credit and Tanisha Broadway of Element Mortgage. And you can register at sacncbw.org/events. sacncbw.org/events. ncbw.org/events. And I'm excited because the event is going to be hosted by Lachelle Dozier. And Lachelle Dozier is the executive for the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. She is in charge over there, and we've had her on the show a few times. She is an amazing lady, an amazing woman. And at the beginning of the show, Denise Shepard, who is the chair of Economic Empowerment of the Economic Empowerment Committee for the NCBW, she will be kicking it off. And Dr. Elizabeth Sherrill Davis, who is the president of the Sacramento chapter of the NCBW, will be speaking as well. And then the panel will join in. So mark your calendar for May 14th, 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., but be sure to go online to register for this event, A Path to Hope, a plan for first-time homeownership. And you can register at sacncbw.org. And I am almost at my time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all who are watching online. Miss Stacy Lynn, I see your comment. Miss Angela and Randy, hey there. I always want to give a shout out. Oh, I also want to give a shout out. Yesterday, I had a business brunch at Fixin's, and my goodness, it was delicious. But I wanted to give a shout out to, hold on, y'all, I got to find the image. Oh my goodness, I don't have her name on here. She was the auntie, she was the greeter, and she was just amazing. I felt so at home. Fixin's opens at 11. We were there at like 10:50, waiting for it to open because they get crowded fast. Honey, she was there at 10:58, greeting everybody and preparing to open the door. And it was just an amazing experience. And she fluttered around the restaurant and, just made everybody feel so at home. So I want to give a shout out to Auntie. I can't remember her full name because she has a title, Auntie somebody. I forgot. If y'all know it, if you're watching, put her name in the chat. But the staff there at Fixin's in Oak Park is always amazing. The food is always amazing. So I want to give a shout out to the staff and the folks over there at Fixin's. So we want to thank you for tuning in today, and hopefully you received some information that was very helpful to you. And Nikki said, yes, she is very sweet. Thank you for co-signing. Yep. And remember, y'all, if you are doing what you were created to do, I will see you at the top. Hey, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.